After being kidnapped, Joe wakes up locked inside a room, with no windows, and no way out. Every day follows the same routine. Food slides under the door with alcohol, and a television is his only connection to the outside world. Then one day, the television shows him something that completely breaks him. He sees himself on the news, accused of raping and murdering his own wife. Devastated and trapped with no way to prove his innocence, Joe realizes that while he's been locked away, his entire life has been destroyed. If you enjoy movie recaps, don't forget to like and subscribe as we dive into this twisted story. The movie begins with Joe Doucette, who works at an advertising firm, but he arrives late to work and immediately learns that his boss is furious. His biggest client is threatening to walk, and his ex-wife Donna has been calling the office. His boss gives him one chance to save his job, and that is to close the Daniel Newcomb account at the client dinner that night. Before the meeting, Joe answers Donna's call and learns that their daughter Mia is turning 3. Donna wants him at the birthday party, but Joe chooses the client dinner instead, dismissing Mia's birthday as something she probably won't even remember. Donna tears into him for being a terrible husband and father, and Joe fires back before hanging up. That night, Joe sits down with the Newcomb family, and for once, everything goes his way. The client is interested, the deal is almost closed, and Joe looks ready to save his job. Then the client steps away, leaving Joe alone with his wife Judy. Joe immediately starts hitting on her, suggesting they meet up later for scotch, cocaine, and dirty movies. Judy rejects him, but Joe keeps pushing until her husband returns and catches him. The meeting is over, and Joe has just destroyed the deal he needed to save his career. With nothing left to lose, he gets drunk and wanders through. Along the way, he spots a small toy and buys it for Mia's birthday, telling the seller that his daughter is turning 3. He then heads to Chucky's bar for another drink, only to find it closed. Chucky refuses to let him in, so Joe stumbles back into the rain with the birthday gift in his hand. He notices a woman holding a yellow umbrella. She stands there watching him, and Joe, too drunk to question it, walks toward her, and that's the last thing he remembers. After the hangover, he wakes up in a strange room with no idea how he got there. He checks the door, but it's locked from the outside. There are no windows, no way to call for help, and no one answers when he starts banging on the walls. Then a small opening appears beneath the door, and a tray of food is pushed inside. Joe demands to know who is holding him, but whoever is outside never responds. He searches the room for anything that could help him escape, but finds nothing. There is a television in the room. That's when he sees the news report that changes everything. Donna has been murdered, and Joe is the prime suspect. The police believe he killed his wife before disappearing, while Mia has been placed in foster care. Joe watches the report in disbelief, realizing that while he has been trapped inside this room, his entire life has been destroyed outside it. He starts screaming for whoever put him here, but the door remains closed. Then Joe notices something even more disturbing. The food keeps arriving, the television keeps working, and whoever is holding him is clearly watching him, but nobody ever tells him why. For the first few years, Joe drinks himself into a stupor, with alcohol arriving alongside every meal. Whenever the room needs cleaning, gas knocks him unconscious, and he wakes up shaved and clean before the cycle starts again. 5 years pass, and then a TV program called Mystery of Crimes airs a segment about Joe's disappearance. Watching from his room, Joe sees Mia again, now older, and living with a foster family. That's when he dumps the alcohol and starts training instead, copying the exercises and martial arts programs on the TV. He also begins writing letters to Mia, promising that one day he'll get out and prove that he never abandoned her or killed her mother. From then on, Joe studies everything around him, from the cameras to the food deliveries, until he traces his meals to a restaurant called Dragon. He finds a blind spot in the wall and spends years at it, slowly working toward an escape. After nearly 20 years, he finally breaks through. Joe grabs his belongings and the letters he's written to Mia, but before he can leave, a video of Mia appears on the television, all grown up. He stops to watch, and while he's distracted, gas floods the room again. Joe collapses, and when he wakes up, he's no longer inside the room. He's lying in a suitcase in the middle of an open field. After 20 years, Joe is finally free. Wearing a clean black suit with a phone and cash in his wallet, Joe steps outside and immediately spots the woman with the yellow umbrella from the night he disappeared. He chases after her, but before he can reach her, a group of college students steps in by hitting him and warning him to leave her alone. Joe fights them off, then catches sight of the umbrella again and follows it into a nearby clinic. But the person holding it isn't the woman he was chasing. It's Johnny, one of the patients. Joe grabs him and demands to know where she is, forcing the nurse to step in and separate them. Dr. Tom Melby then explains that Johnny has a habit of taking things that don't belong to him and must have mistaken Joe's umbrella for his own. Joe leaving when the nurse Marie Sebastian approaches him. Seeing how confused and distressed he looks, she gives him her card and tells him to call if he needs medical help or simply wants someone to talk to. Joe takes the card and leaves the clinic, heading straight for the one place where he hopes someone from his old life might still recognize him, Chucky's bar. Chucky barely recognizes Joe until he tells him who he is, and before Joe can explain everything, the phone he was given rings. A mysterious voice asks how Joe's first day of freedom has been, then tells him to look back at his miserable existence because there's more coming. He even hints that Joe could find peace and happiness, perhaps with his daughter Mia. Joe immediately warns him to leave Mia out of it, but the caller simply says he'll be in touch and hangs up. Joe turns to Chucky for help. During his 20 years in captivity, Joe made a list of everyone who might have wanted him gone. Now he and Chucky start working through the names. Daniel Newcomb is first, but Chucky discovers that Joe's former client died in a mid-air collision, so they cross him off. While they're going through the list, exhaustion finally catches up with Joe, and he collapses inside the bar. Chucky finds Marie's card and calls her instead. She comes over and checks on Joe while he rests, then picks up the letters he wrote to Mia during his 20 years in captivity. When Joe wakes and realizes Marie has been reading them, he grabs them from her and demands to know why she touched them. But instead of calling the police, Marie tells him she believes his story. She offers to help him find legal assistance and clear his name. She follows Joe to a retirement home where they go looking for his former boss, Bernard Sharkey. They find him there, but Sharkey is now too old and mentally gone to be the man behind Joe's imprisonment, so his name is crossed off too. With the list getting shorter, Joe remembers another clue, the name of the restaurant that supplied his meals inside the prison. Marie helps him track it down, but she has to leave for work. Before going, she tells Joe to save her number and says she'll be free the next day. Joe stays behind watching the restaurant and soon notices a man carrying out a huge takeout order. Something about it catches his attention. Joe follows the man, and the trail finally leads him to the people who have been keeping him imprisoned for 20 years. He hides nearby and manages to slip inside without being noticed. The security is lighter than he expected, probably because nobody imagines a former prisoner could find his way back to them. Joe silently takes down the few guards standing in his way with a hammer and pushes deeper into the building until he reaches the room of the man in charge, Cheney. He ties him up and begins torturing him, demanding to know who ordered his imprisonment and who has been behind it all these years. Cheney refuses to give him a name, insisting that he was only hired to run the facility. Joe keeps pressing him, telling him he's been thinking about this moment for the last 20 years. Eventually, Cheney admits that he doesn't know the client's identity. The people who hire them never give their real names. Desperate to make Joe stop, he finally tells him about a set of tapes hidden in a cabinet. The recording reveals that the facility has been serving an elite group of clients for years, secretly imprisoning people for whoever can afford their services. Then Joe hears the question that confirms everything. How long will Mr. Doucet be kept there? The answer is chilling: 20 years. But before Joe can learn anything else, a guard discovers the bodies and raises the alarm. The guards rush toward the room, but Joe uses Cheney as leverage. Once he gets an opening, Joe lets Cheney go and makes a run for it. Years of training inside that room finally pay off as he fights his way through them with the hammer, taking on one attacker after another, until he finally reaches the outside. But the injuries and exhaustion catch up with him. Joe collapses. Not long after, two mysterious men pick him up and dump him outside Chucky's bar. Marie and Dr. Tom Melby patch up his wounds. Tom insists that Joe needs a hospital, but Marie refuses, knowing that taking him there could bring the police into the situation. As Joe wakes up, he overhears them arguing. Tom eventually comes to check on him and examines the wound on his back. Then he gives Joe a warning. But Marie has already been through a lot, and the last thing she needs from anyone is more pain. Please don't hurt her. After Tom leaves, Marie enters carrying Joe's clean suit. With Tom's warning in mind, Joe doesn't want Marie anywhere near him anymore because he knows that staying around him could put her in danger. Joe tells her to leave, telling her not to come back. She reluctantly walks away, leaving Joe alone. Joe barely has time to process everything when his phone rings again. But this time, the mysterious man isn't just speaking through the phone. He's sitting right behind Joe. Joe immediately charges at him, but the man has brought backup. His men quickly overpower Joe and shut down the bar, blending in as ordinary customers before revealing exactly why they're there. This time, the mysterious man has a much more serious warning. He tells Joe that he has Mia. If Joe wants to see his daughter alive again, he has to stop the violence and listen to his proposition. The man gives Joe a challenge. If Joe succeeds, he'll receive a recording proving that he didn't murder Donna, along with a written confession explaining exactly how he was kidnapped and imprisoned. And there's an even bigger reward, $20 million in diamonds. But first, Joe has to answer two questions. Who am I? And more importantly, why did I imprison you for 20 years? Joe has a little more than 46 hours to find the answers. If he refuses the challenge or fails, he remains a fugitive, gets no reward and no closure, and the man will kill Mia. And there's one more rule. If Joe or anyone helping him goes to the police or tries to warn Mia, the consequences will be even worse. Then the man tells Joe to look at it as he shows him a live broadcast of Marie being held captive. He gives Joe her address and tells him to hurry. Joe immediately accepts the challenge as he races to her address. Joe gets Marie to safety, but the attack leaves Marie shaken. She no longer feels safe at home and decides to stay with a friend downtown. Then Joe's phone rings again. The same strange music plays in the background. With Marie's help, Joe identifies the song as the Evergreen Academy song. That name immediately triggers something in Joe's memory. Evergreen Academy, the prep school he attended years ago. Maybe the answer is buried in his past. Joe and Marie begin digging through old records and find Edwina Burke, the school's former headmistress. As they leave Marie's house to find somewhere safer, something else begins developing between them. During the drive, Marie opens up to Joe, and the tension between them becomes harder to ignore. She reaches over and touches his face, turning an already intimate conversation into a moment neither of them can easily dismiss. The next day, they track down Burke. Marie poses as a journalist investigating Joe's case, and when she tells Burke that Joe may have been framed for Donna's murder, Burke is surprised but willing to listen. Burke remembers Joe clearly, though not fondly. She describes him as a terrible student who thought highly of himself and could be cruel toward other students. When Marie asks whether Joe had enemies, Burke admits he had plenty, but can't remember anyone who would have hated him enough to do something this extreme. Then Burke gives them another important clue. The old Evergreen Academy building is still standing, but it has been abandoned for years. The board sold it to a corporation, the gates were locked, and everything inside was left behind, including the school's files, records, and history. While Marie keeps Burke distracted, Joe secretly searches through her belongings and finds an old yearbook from his time at Evergreen. Then he sees a photograph of a kid who looks strangely similar to the mysterious man. Joe takes the yearbook and leaves. Later, he and Marie decide to return to the abandoned academy that night and search the old records for answers. Back at the motel, they remain unaware that hidden cameras have been installed inside. Joe studies the photograph and calls Chucky, asking if he recognizes the person. Since they attended the same school, Joe hopes his old friend might remember something. Chucky can't identify him, but promises to ask around and do some research. Meanwhile, Marie takes a bath while Joe remains in the room. When Marie comes back out wrapped in a towel, she notices Joe's wound from the fight and offers to check his bandage. What begins as Marie tending to his injury turns into a vulnerable moment between them. After everything they've been through together, the attraction they've both been trying to ignore finally becomes impossible to deny. They sleep together, but neither of them knows they're being watched by Adrian the mysterious man. Then Chucky makes a breakthrough, tracing the Adrian surname to someone from their old class. He sends Joe a quick message. It's about a girl from their time at Evergreen Academy, the girl they once called a whore. Neither Joe nor Chucky realizes that Adrian has hacked Joe's phone. He sees the message before Joe can and deletes it immediately, but it's already too late. The moment Adrian sees that word, whore, something inside him changes. His anger takes over, and Adrian heads straight for Chucky's restaurant. This time, Chucky is the target. It's now night, and Joe and Marie make their way into the abandoned Evergreen Academy premises. They begin searching through the old records, hoping to finally connect Joe's past to the man hunting him. While going through Adrian Price's file, Joe comes across another name, Amanda Price. He asks Marie to find Amanda's file. When she pulls it out and Joe sees her photograph, the memories suddenly come rushing back. Joe remembers Amanda from his time as a student. He had bullied her back then, but another memory is even more disturbing. One day, while sneaking off to get alcohol, Joe saw Amanda having sex with an older man in the greenhouse. He hid in the bushes and watched them before leaving. What Joe did next would change everything. He spread what he had seen around the school, and the rumor quickly turned Amanda into the girl everyone called a whore. Joe never understood how much damage his gossip had caused, but now he realizes it may be the reason someone has spent 20 years destroying his life. They continue digging through the old records until Marie finds a report titled Family Tragedy in Luxembourg. It describes a Price family tragedy involving a double murder, suicide, and a young man left seriously injured. Then Joe finds another article, Son Tells Tale of Murder. He looks at the photograph and suddenly recognizes the man as the same person he saw with Amanda in the greenhouse that night. He was Amanda's father. Shaken by the discovery, Joe and Marie leave the premises. Joe immediately calls Chucky, but there's no response. Then they discover something waiting on the hood of their car. A package. They open it. Inside is Chucky's tongue. The message is clear. Adrian is watching them, and he's getting closer. Back at the motel, Joe prepares to leave and finish this himself, but Marie begs him not to go. She's terrified for him and finally admits how much she cares about him. Joe refuses to stay. He tells her not to go anywhere. On his way there, Joe calls Dr. Tom and asks him to get Marie from the motel and take her somewhere safe. Then Joe heads out to confront Adrian. He arrives at the location armed and immediately rushes Adrian. But the woman who has been protecting Adrian from the beginning steps in to stop him, but Joe eventually overpowers her and kills her. Now there is nothing standing between Joe and Adrian, the man who has controlled his life for 20 years. Then Joe demands to see Mia. Adrian tells him she's nearby, but Joe won't see her until he answers the two questions that started this entire game. First, who is he? Joe gives him the answer. Adrian Doyle Price. Then comes the second question. Why did Adrian imprison Joe for 20 years? Joe says Adrian blames him for the tragedy that destroyed his family. Years ago at Evergreen Academy, Joe saw Adrian's sister Amanda in the greenhouse having sex with an older man. Joe didn't know the man was her father, so he spread the rumor around the school. Adrian tells Joe that Amanda endured years of torment because of that rumor. Joe insists he never knew what was really happening or that the man was Amanda's father, but Adrian doesn't care. The Price family eventually fled to Luxembourg, but leaving didn't erase what happened. Adrian explains that his father, Arthur Price, loved his family deeply, and that what happened between him, Adrian, and Amanda was something they considered beautiful and private. Joe exposed it, and Adrian spent the next 20 years making him pay. That's why he imprisoned Joe for 20 years. Adrian then tells Joe he has won and promises to take him to Mia, but before they leave, Adrian asks one final question: "Why did I ever let you go?" Adrian leads Joe into another room. Everything shown during the Mystery of Crime segment was fake, and reveals that the daughter Joe thought he'd been speaking to earlier was never Mia. The woman was an actress named Ashley, someone Adrian had employed since she was a child. Then Adrian reveals the truth. After Donna's murder, Mia was placed into foster care. Adrian secretly changed her identity, altered her records, and carefully arranged her upbringing. For 20 years, he shaped her into a kind, caring woman who would naturally be drawn to someone like Joe. Someone broken, someone who needed saving. Someone she would eventually fall in love with, and that woman is Marie. Joe is shattered. Marie isn't just the woman he fell in love with. Marie is Mia. Adrian had been watching everything through hidden cameras, waiting for this exact moment. Joe begs Adrian to kill him, but Adrian refuses. Death would be too easy. He wanted Joe to live with the same kind of loss and devastation he'd carried for 20 years. With his revenge finally complete, Adrian takes his own life, leaving Joe alone with the truth and $20 million in diamonds that can no longer fix anything. Later, Joe writes Marie a final letter. He sends her part of the diamonds and tells her she'll never see him again because he has done something unforgivable. He admits that, for a short time, she made him happy and that he'll always love her. But he tells her to forget him and find happiness with someone who can give her the life she deserves. Then Joe disappears from her life. Joe uses the remaining diamonds to return to the very prison he once escaped from. Only this time, he enters willingly. If you've watched this recap till here, like and subscribe for more. Drop a comment and tell me what you think about this story. See you in the next one.